Brian, will you just calm down? I told you that there is no way that we're going to keep Paige an absolute prisoner in her own house. Well, the best thing we can do is to make sure that she's protected when she goes out.
Just like she was protected the last time, right?
Brian, nothing happened the last time. She was nowhere near the scene of the action when she went out to dinner with Guthrie. It was the other cop who was hurt.
Yes, because Guthrie used her as some kind of decoy.
Will you stop making me defend him? Honestly, Brian, I thought you were all over this.
You're right. I am. I'm sorry. I'm just upset, Dad. I want you to know I have nothing against Steve Guthrie. I think he's doing the best job possible under the circumstances.
You're damn right he is. If he hadn't given Paige that gun, she'd have been killed in her own house by that phony maid that we hired.
Yeah. She was almost cleverer than he was, wasn't she? Tricking him into leaving the house that way and then making sure Mom was helpless.
Drunk, you mean?
It's the same thing, isn't it?
Yes, Brian, it's the same thing.
You still haven't forgiven her, have you?
I don't know, is forgiveness necessary?
No, Dad, it isn't, because she didn't do what she did of her own volition. She was tricked, just the way Guthrie was tricked into leaving this house. Now, if you have any blame to lay on her, Dad, you blame Guthrie, too.
Brian, it's not the same thing. Brian, he left the house because he believed that his friend needed him. Paige urged him to go. For one thing, he knew that she had a means to defend herself.
But Mom didn't. Don't you understand that? There was no way Mom could have protected herself against that woman coming into her room with a bottle of whiskey.
Yes, I know, Brian. I understand.
Well, if you do, then why are you letting her suffer?
I wasn't aware that she was.
Dad, I'm trying to make you aware. Mom is miserable. She's sure you hate her now.
She has no reason to believe that, Brian.
Dad, Mom doesn't always talk about how she feels. Now, maybe that's the trouble with both of you. You never talk to each other. I'm sorry. I have no right to tell anyone what's wrong with them, you or Mom or Paige. Maybe I am the cause of all this trouble, huh?
Don't be so self-centered, Brian.
No, Dad, I mean it. If I hadn't come back here, maybe you and Mom might have been able to work out something. Maybe my presence around here just adds too much tension to this household, huh? Something tells me you're agreeing.
You know how I feel about this, Brian.
Yeah, I'm afraid I do, Dad. You would much rather I'd never come back at all. In fact, I think you'd much rather I'd never been born.
I'll get it. Hello.
Hello, Owen. It's Margo.
Hey, Margo. How are you?
Well, I'm fine, thank you. I was hoping you're bearing up pretty well. You and your daughter, I was worrying about you.
Yeah, well, she's been keeping the press well supplied with sensational stories, hasn't she? In fact, you've gotten quite a lot of mileage yourself on her on the WMON news.
Oh, believe me, we'd much rather be broadcasting happier things, especially about Paige. She's such a beautiful girl. Oh, I hope she's being a little more cautious.
Well, we're doing the best we can, Margo. I've hired a bodyguard for her, a fellow named Steve Guthrie, and I've every confidence in him.
Oh, well, I'm sure he's quite competent. He is not, however, one of my favorite people.
Oh, really? Why is that? I think he's pretty likable.
Well, I will tell you the whole story one day. Anyway, I did not call to chat with you, as enjoyable as that may be.
Hey, Margo, maybe we can get together someday, huh?
I'd like that. I'd very much like to see your wife again.
Again? I didn't realize that you'd met Nola.
Well, actually, the person I really would like to talk to is your son, Brian. He wouldn't happen to be home, would he?
Brian? Yes, of course, he's right here. Hold on, I'll get him. It's for you. It's Margo Huntington. Or I should say, Mrs. Dorn.
Hello, Mrs. Dorn.
Oh, how are you, Brian?
Fine, thanks.
I just wondered, are you still interested in that job we talked about?
Yes, yes, I am very interested, Mrs. Dorn.
Well, I've just been going over your application for employment, and I have decided that WMON News could use a bright young fellow, especially one who asks for so little and promises so much. So if you're still agreeable, why don't we consider you WMON's newest employee?
Thank you, Mrs. Dorn. That's very good news. Thank you very much.
Good. Well, why don't you stop by tomorrow, say about 10 o'clock in my office, and I will go over the details. Okay? Good. Oh, come in. Fine. Now, talk to you then. Bye-bye. Well, WMON's family is growing.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, I just hired Brian Madison.
Owen Madison's son?
Yes, but it isn't just a favor to a friend. He happens to be a very bright, intelligent young fellow. He has a good technical background from the Navy. He studied journalism, and he comes cheap. Oh, well, you don't seem overly thrilled. Oh, thank you.
Well, to tell you the truth, I'm a little depressed.
Oh?
Just learned that Draper didn't get that job in New York.
Oh, yes, April told me the bad news. Oh, well, quite honestly, I don't think it's such bad news. I really think it's maybe the best thing that could have happened.
I just don't understand what happened. I mean, from everything April and Draper said, they wanted him very much. I mean, why else would they bring them both to New York?
Oh, it was just sort of an inspection tour, wasn't it?
April was so sure that Draper passed.
Well, April was a little bit prejudiced, don't you think?
Oh, I don't think so at all. I mean, I don't think that she was wrong when she said that Draper impressed everybody. For one thing, she didn't exactly convey the news with a great deal of pleasure.
Thank you. Everybody knew how April felt about moving to New York. I mean, she didn't exactly hide her feelings.
No, she sure didn't. Well, she was miserable about living in New York, leaving her new home and her new job.
Not to mention her new mother. Oh, come on. I think the thing that distressed her the most was leaving you and Miles.
Well, I don't know, we were distressed too, but... Margo, it just seemed like such a wonderful opportunity for Draper.
Oh, come on. I don't believe that opportunity only knocks once. For heaven's sakes, it's knocked on my door several times.
Yeah, well... I'm sure Draper's going to do very well wherever he is.
Nicole, please, just look at it from April's standpoint, won't you? I mean, she's going to be a lot happier here with her family and her friends, and she has her own career that she's building.
Margo, come on. You know I'm a firm believer in the principle of what you're saying. A woman has just as much right to a career as her husband, but you got to admit, April's career has just started. I mean, she's just beginning to learn the fundamentals. Draper has spent 6 years in law school, and he's been practicing law for another half dozen years at least.
Oh, well, as I say, practice makes perfect. Oh, come on, he's too young and too inexperienced to be a partner at Seward, Paxton, and whatever.
Margo, nonetheless, I feel very sorry for Draper. It must have been a crushing disappointment. You know, he was told he had the job.
Oh?
April said that very night that man came by the hotel room and told him, assured him he was in.
Well, you know how these things happen.
No, I don't.
Well, obviously, Mr. Henson went home and decided that Draper just didn't have enough experience for the job.
Henson? April told me the man's name was Seward.
Oh, well, whatever the man's name was, he just obviously figured that Draper wasn't right. You know, this news report you brought, I edited it down to about 30 seconds, would you?